Hey everyone, here's what's coming up tonight on News Center Now. Maine breweries have gone global. Now they're sharing the wealth.
Also tonight, some concerning health news. It's been quite a while since we've heard about any cases of Legionnaire's disease, but CDC says an unusual number have cropped up in Bangor lately.
Cape Air just announced flights from Portland to Boston. Got me thinking, what's the carbon footprint of that and other ways to get down to Beantown? This is News Center Now.
Good Friday evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Mills.
And I'm Lee Nelson. So glad you're with us this evening. We'll begin with a bit of a health concern in the Bangor area. The Maine Center for Disease Control and Prevention says it's investigating a cluster of 6 Legionnaire's cases in that area, Bangor area.
Yeah, the Maine CDC says that's a rate higher than average for the region. Legionella is a type of bacterium found naturally in freshwater environments like lakes and streams. People can get sick when they breathe in mist or swallow water containing Legionella into their lungs. The bacteria can cause a serious type of pneumonia with symptoms such as a cough, shortness of breath, fever, and headaches. People should watch for symptoms for about a couple of weeks after exposure. The CDC says they are trying to find out if there is a common exposure among the Bangor cases or if they are just coincidental. Healthcare providers have diagnosed about 1 case of Legionnaire's each month in Maine since November 2018. All the individuals were hospitalized and 1 person with the illness died.
Yeah, the CDC wants the public to know, though, that Legionnaire's is not spread from person to person. Some other news we're following this evening. After days of political pressure, U.S. Labor Secretary Alex Acosta is stepping down. Acosta has been under fire for the way he handled a sex crimes case against a wealthy businessman, Jeffrey Epstein, more than 10 years ago now. At the time, Acosta was U.S. Attorney for Southern Florida. Acosta made that announcement to reporters this morning while, as you can see, standing next to President Trump outside the White House. Deputy Labor Secretary Patrick Pizzella will lead that department, at least temporarily.
Singer R. Kelly has been arrested again, this time in Chicago on federal sex trafficking charges. He was just released on bail 5 months ago on separate sex abuse charges. This latest arrest comes after a 13-count indictment was handed up in federal court yesterday. The charges include child pornography, enticement of a minor, and obstruction of justice. Kelly has been dogged by sex charges for years, and he's always maintained his innocence.
Tropical storm Barry is expected to make landfall in Louisiana tomorrow, and already President Trump has declared a federal emergency for that state. The storm's outer bands are already affecting New Orleans. The National Weather Service says one of those bands passed over the agency's Slidell, Louisiana office earlier today, but the winds were just about 25 miles an hour. But apparently the wind is really not the issue with Barry, it's the rainfall. Forecasters say Barry could dump 10 to 20 inches of rain from New Orleans to Baton Rouge.
New England Patriots player Elandon Roberts is condemning treatment by a Texas sheriff's deputy heard on dashcam video, referring to Roberts as a, quote, big black male during a March traffic stop. The Fort Bend County deputy can also be heard telling a colleague that Roberts wouldn't comply with an order to get back into his car after the linebacker got out. We have much more on this story at our website and at our mobile app.
All right, let's talk about the weather now. It seemed to kind of slowly turn around as the day progressed. It's really sticky out there, though, huh?
Yeah, the air seems thick.
Yeah, really, really thick. Let's talk to Keith about this and other weather-related issues. Hello, Keith.
This just made me think, guys, I was thinking about this the other day. So doesn't humid air, hot humid air, feel heavier than...
It does.
No question.
It's the opposite, though.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Really?
So cold air is more dense than warm air. But
because heat rises.
Isn't that, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. But it's strange because doesn't it feel like sensibly feels the opposite.
Yeah.
Science and all this voodoo stuff. All right, dew points are extremely high, though. You guys are right into that oppressive range of upper 60s, low 70s. Last summer was the only time I could remember in Maine where we were ripping off 73, 74s for dew point. But usually 70s on the high end of what we're going to see. It stays that way overnight tonight. Temperatures have jumped too in areas that saw sun to 80 or so. So the heat index is noticeably warm. Not the case, though, over northern and down east Maine. where it is cooler, 60s there, clouds. That's why you can see that break of sunshine. Guys, we talked yesterday about how the more sunshine we saw during the middle of the day, the more thunderstorms there would be later, and here's the line coming through the mountains right now. Not a ton of lightning being detected on this, but still a couple more hours to come through Greenville and Eustis and Carrabassett Valley, some showers and some storms, and then more back off to the south and southwest as well. These are just scattered, but they'll be coming through later on tonight. After they come through, we're in good shape for the weekend. It still looks really nice, and we do have one day that will make Lee happy, at least as far as the heat goes, so we'll nail that down in a few.
All right, sounds good, Keith. Thank you, sir, very much. All right, we got some more news to get to, beginning in China.
All right, from tech to trade territory, China is looking to challenge the U.S. for global dominance. High-tech supermarkets and hotels are popping up all over the country. They're rolling out flying taxis as well. And China is building for the future and investing billions to become the leader in artificial intelligence. NBC's Richard Engel spoke with a Chinese American who advises Fortune 500 companies about the Chinese market.
China wants to be a leader in tech, and it is investing heavily in AI. What is China trying to achieve with this?
So China is trying to take the lead globally. I think in many ways, whoever wins the tech wars, especially in artificial intelligence and big data in the next 5 years, is going to control the world in the future.
Now, tonight on NBC Nightly News, Richard Engel will take a deep dive into this issue, including a look at how China is using artificial intelligence to rank its own citizens.
And Japan is pushing the high-tech envelope as well with underwater drones, and they're helping to save lives. The Nihama Fire Department, that's in western Japan, has introduced an underwater drone for diving rescues. You know, things like when a car or a fisherman might fall into the ocean. It can dive up to about 100 meters and operate for about 4 hours down there. It is connected by a 200-meter cable to a computer and operated with something resembling a game controller. Japan also uses flying drones in rescues as well.
And have you seen this dramatic drug bust video from out at sea? I saw this morning too. The Coast Guard released the video showing a high-speed ocean chase that ended up with the capture of a submarine carrying a large stash of cocaine. The chase and seizure took place in international waters in the eastern Pacific Ocean last month. This video, as you can see, shows one crewman pounding on the hatch of the boat until a man inside throws it open, apparently surrendering. The Coast Guard says an estimated $569 million worth of drugs have been seized off the coast of Mexico just between May and July of this year. This got my heart pounding watching
I know,
it.
It's crazy video, and the full loud audio is really dramatic too. They're screaming in Spanish at them to open up the hatch. Crazy.
So crazy.
All right, quick break coming up. A big group is planning to storm Area 51 in Nevada, so we'll learn more about their plan coming up.
Interesting. And what started as a marketing initiative to do something for Maine is turning into so much more than that. How the Maine Beer Box is helping local brewers go global when we come back.
All right, we're back. If you are planning on having guacamole or avocado toast over the weekend, expect to pay a little bit more for it.
Yeah, according to the latest report from the Department of Agriculture, the average national price of an avocado was $2.10, almost double the same time last year. Experts say the price increase is due to low supply. California's avocado season is coming to an end and was the smallest crop in more than a decade. It's also the lowest production time of the season for Mexico, where the U.S. gets about 90% of its avocados.
That is problematic.
That is really problematic. Well, how far would you go to uncover alien secrets? A big group is planning to storm Area 51 in Nevada.
Yeah, more than 300,000 people have clicked going to this September 20th Facebook event, Storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us, is what it's called. The event's description, simple. We will all meet up at Area 51 Alien Center tourist attraction and coordinate our entry. We can move faster than their bullets. Let's see them aliens. Okay. A lot of people are commenting on this post too. The consensus seems to be that this is a very bad idea, with a lot of people mocking it.
Yeah, I like pulling out the popcorn and just kind of watching from afar. All right, well, a program that's helping Maine brewers tap into foreign markets is on the move again. We'll have that story coming up.
Yeah. Plus, of course, look at Keith's weekend forecast. Of course they do. They had to land on it. Starting a new business is certainly a risk, but there are a lot of brewers in Maine who took the chance and actually are doing pretty well in the very popular brew scene in Maine.
They are, and now some are taking on an even greater challenge by going global.
It's surreal. It's definitely surreal.
Luke Livingston is the founder of Baxter Brewing Company in Lewiston.
I still remember the day we shipped our first cases of beer to Boston.
Now, 8 years later, he's shipping his product a whole lot further.
It's kind of rolling out the carpet before they land there to try to sell their individual brand.
Baxter Brewing is one of nearly 70 different Maine beers inside the Maine Beer Box, making its third international trip this weekend. The goal of this marketing strategy from the Maine Brewers Guild?
Get Maine beer in front of people from all over the earth.
This time, it's headed to Halifax, Nova Scotia.
We want to be the best place for beer, not only in the United States, but in the world, and that gives us an opportunity.
And that opportunity appears to be working.
We sent 49 pallets of beer to the Beer 52 program in April, and it was awesome.
After the last trip to Leeds, England, 4 Maine breweries were selected to be part of a UK-based craft beer club, which has customers around the world.
Both cash and projects for our brewers at a time of year that was really helpful.
But shipping out tens of thousands of dollars worth of product to another country can be risky. Sometimes the payment for that beer doesn't come through for several months, or sometimes not at all.
It happens all the time.
That's where Brent Hoots comes in. He's the founder of Navitrade Structured Finance, which works with the Export-Import Bank of the United States to help brewers and other businesses manage that risk.
If Baxter Brewing Company is not paid, we turn to Exim Bank, and Exim Bank will pay Baxter Brewing Company on that invoice. So it's an insurance mechanism, and it covers 95% of that invoice.
It's a huge peace of mind.
For Luke Livingston, tapping into an international market is an opportunity worth the challenge.
It's getting harder and harder to distribute further away from home domestically as local beer gets to be a bigger thing everywhere in the U.S. However, American-made craft beer is also getting a name for itself internationally, where there's still market opportunity.
The Maine Beer Box is scheduled to leave Portland tomorrow morning. It will arrive in Nova Scotia in time for the Cider and Beer Fest happening there this summer. The container will then return either this fall or winter filled with beers from Canada. So you may also wonder, though, why ship by sea to Canada when Maine is driving distance away? The simple answer is that it costs less.
Because they could put so much beer on the ship.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
It makes sense. I think the insurance idea is just so clever.
Yes.
You know, and it's one more example of ingenuity. There's a need, boom, somebody moves in and fills it.
Makes you think,
know?
why didn't I think of that?
Right. I've said that many times.
This
about a lot of things.
the Falmouth Beer Box at Lee's house is great too.
Right,
Just
it is,
We
yes.
were there just last week, and it was a wide variety of
I
assortment.
know.
There's
Always
no
got
tax
fresh stuff on
collected.
tap.
Smaller than that.
No tax collected. All right, very tropical out there today, but good tropical in the middle of the
sure.
day. Bad tropical in the beginning part of the day.
Sure.
But still, dew points upper 60s, low 70s, and we were just talking about this, how last summer we had a few 74, 75 dew points. That's very rare. So usually this is the top end of what you'll get for humidity in northern New England. There's that break of sunshine over western and southern Maine, and that's what has given us kind of some late steamy readings, some late highs here, and then popping up some thunderstorms behind it. Still socked in over down East Maine, likely ending the day that way as well. So here's that line of showers and thunderstorms that's being developed by the sunshine. The sunshine is self-destructive in nature, and so these storms coming through, right now they're just garden variety thunderstorms, not a ton of severe characteristics to be had. A couple more back here into the Lakes region of New Hampshire that will come in, probably into Sebago, areas like that, but nothing too heavy, just a chance for an isolated shower later tonight. After that, we go partly cloudy. The only struggle we have tomorrow morning is over down East Maine, just getting this cloud cover out of here. We'll do so, but it might take a few more hours than you like up towards Bar Harbor, for example, and certainly into Eastport and Machias. But we break out and we're into the mid-80s by the afternoon, upper 80s away from the coastline. A pretty hot day. Dew points not as bad as today, but not low either. So it stays pretty sticky-ish through the weekend. And then Sunday's a nice day as well. We will have a couple of showers in the mountains and across northern Maine on Sunday afternoon, but the vast majority of us stay dry straight through the weekend with the better chance of isolated showers on Sunday. Monday looks good. Tuesday looks good as well. Still watching that signal for mid next week. It looks like it will now be a one-day big heat event. I thought we could get 2 days out of it. Normally we would. The ridge is in a really good position. Most of the time when the ridge looks like this, a day out, you're going to get just torched. We will for Wednesday, but look at that. That's Barry. Barry kind of throws off the whole synoptic upper air pattern and pushes us back down on Thursday and Friday. But there are signals that it comes back next week into a big ridge. So I think we'll begin to run above average overall. Let's have a look at Barry real quick, guys. We've got a naked circulation here, which is usually a sign of disorganization, so that's good news. Unfortunately, this storm isn't about its circulation. It's about its rain as it meanders onshore here through the day on Saturday. Rainfall amounts are going to be huge past this scale, 10 to 15 inches of rain expected over central and western Louisiana. So that's a problem, obviously, into Arkansas and Tennessee as well. So our weekend looks good again. Don't be shocked by an isolated shower in the mountains in northern Maine on Sunday, but most of us are dry. We'll pop between 90 and 95 on Wednesday, and scattered showers coming in here on Friday. So it's a good pattern overall.
Good deal for us up here. Well, going into a hurricane, speaking of, is something that most people would never want to try.
However, scientists get a lot of information thanks to hurricane hunters who fly right into the storm. Here's how the hurricane hunters came about.
Hurricane hunter flights have now become essential for predicting the strength and track of storms. But the story goes, it all started because of a bet. Let's connect the dots. The story starts in Bryan, Texas in 1943, right in the middle of World War II. A hurricane was brewing in the Gulf, and British pilots stationed at Bryan Army Airfield started making fun of their American counterparts for racing to get their planes out of the way of the storm. Over coffee in the mess hall, Colonel Joseph Duckworth got sick of the jokes and bet the Brits he could fly into the hurricane itself and return unharmed. A short time later, Duckworth and a navigator took off, heading south into the storm. Air traffic controllers in Houston told them to keep updating their position so authorities would know where to find their wreckage. But they made it through the rough outer bands, flying straight into the eye of the storm, circling it once before heading back to Bryan Field. Almost as soon as they landed, the field's weather officer asked to be flown into the storm. So on the same day the first pilot survived an intentional flight into a hurricane, a second flight was made to collect scientific data. And the hurricane hunters were born. Connecting the dots, I'm Stephanie Whitfield.
It's pretty cool. It's interesting, too, how many technological advances happened during wartime. Radar came from that. The radar we used for weather was to detect planes and shoot them down. So a lot of the stuff that we have actually comes from maybe not the right place, but we end up using it later on. It's a perfect example there.
Interesting.
Really interesting.
All right, Casey, thank you very much. All right, Cindy is here with what's coming up in the next half hour. Howdy.
Hey guys, it is summer camp season, and any of you out there with kids know that there are camps for everything. There's music and drama and sports, you name it. Well, there is a camp going on in Bangor this week for would-be scientists and engineers. So we're going to show you what's going on there, what these kids are creating, and just a warning, you're going to think they're smarter than you are. And they probably are. We got that story coming up. Also ahead, we're going to meet a proud member of America's greatest generation and his grandkids who think he is something special. They are just incredibly proud of the missions he flew and the incredible honor he was awarded. That story from Boyd Hubert, all ahead at 5:30. Back to you.
Oh, it's going to be a good one.
Right.
Oh,
They
you
always
hear
are.
that name. Very good. See you guys at 5:30. We're back with Brain Drops after this.
A recent announcement of commuter flights from Portland to Boston got me thinking, what's the carbon footprint of such a short flight? Or even better, what's the lowest impact way, carbon-wise, to travel from Portland to Boston? Now, unless you're a big walker, there are 4 ways to get down there: car, bus, train, or plane. First things first, the distance traveled will vary by method. The plane flies 95 miles with the ability to fly over water. Taking highways in a car or a bus means 108 miles of travel, and the Downeaster runs 112 miles since the track takes a different path. Now that we know the distance, let's figure out how much fuel each will use to get there. Cape Air flies mostly Cessna 402 aircraft. They average 4 to 4.5 miles a gallon. Now I'm only going to give them the low end of that because we have to take into account taxiing and extra fuel on takeoff. For the car, let's assume the vehicle gets 30 miles a gallon, and the best-selling motor coach gets about 8 miles a gallon. The Amtrak Downeaster P42 locomotive clocks in at 3/4 of a mile per gallon of fuel. That means the plane needs 23.75 gallons, the car needs 3.6 gallons, the bus 13.5, and the train needs 149.3 gallons of fuel. But each of these methods holds a different number of passengers, and we want the per passenger carbon impact. So, if we take the number of gallons and divide it by the number of passengers, we end up with the following: 3.39 gallons per passenger for the plane, 3.6 for the car, 0.24 for the bus, and 0.49 for the train. But to be fair, we should put 4 people in the car, since we're assuming max capacity for the other modes of transportation. Doing that gives us 0.9 per passenger for the car. Now to the last step, the amount of CO2 that will be emitted from each. Now this gets interesting because not all types of fuel burn the same. As such, we need to use a higher CO2 number for the diesel fuel used by the bus and the train, and a slightly higher number for the type of gasoline a plane uses as opposed to a car. So, the final numbers are 16.6 pounds of carbon dioxide per passenger for the car, 5.4 pounds for the bus, 10.9 for the train, and 66.4 for the plane. That leaves the bus the clear winner. Need more convincing? Bus is also one of the safest ways to travel, coming in at roughly 66 times safer than driving your own car. So there you go. So it really comes down to the number of people on each mode, but we had to be fair about the comparison. If you're going to say there's going to be 7 people on the plane, then you have to say there's going to be 4 people in the car.
Sure.
So the bus is the winner, and the bus, as I mentioned, not only in carbon footprint, but also in safety. Buses are extremely safe, 66 times safer than driving, and they're only marginally less safe than commercial airliners. So if you're okay with it and sitting next to somebody, the bus is the way to go. And a car, if you carpool, is not terrible either.
Right.
But we have to have a race at some point. Plane versus car down to Boston. That would be interesting.
The speed, in terms of getting to the airport, counting
TSA.
for that time too. Yeah.
Sounds like a story.
That's interesting. Next Brain Drops with cool graphics. News Center Maine at 5:30 starts right now.